Life wasn't about microwaved dinners and threadbare clothes. I used to be designer clothes every week, vacations wherever I wanted, kind of rich. Dad, the tech guru with a Midas touch, and Mom, the design was who made every LitaCorp gadget a must-have. They were loaded. My folks were all about hard work and not wasting a dime, even if it meant buying last year's model phone instead of the newest one. Then, everything went dark at 14. One afternoon, while I was arguing with Sarah, my best friend at the time, about who got the front seat for the movie, Don't Judge, 2 police officers showed up at our door. Their faces were grim, and the words they spoke felt like a punch to the gut. Plane crash, Pacific Ocean, no survivors. My parents were gone. The world became a blur of tear-stained faces and endless paperwork. School wasn't any better. Kids who used to fawn over my designer bags now avoided me like the plague. Sarah, the best friend, ditched me faster than yesterday's news. The only good thing was Nana, Dad's mom. She lived in a tiny house, a haven of comfy furniture and the delicious smell of freshly baked cookies. Nana welcomed me with open arms. Your parents raised a strong, independent girl. You'll be all right, sweetheart. Nana became my confidant, the only one who understood the emptiness gnawing at me. One day, after a fight with my former rich friends, I found Nana in her garden, surrounded by vibrant sunflowers. Tears pricked my eyes as I blurted out, "Why'd my parents lock everything away, Nana? It's not like I'm gonna blow it all on, like a diamond-encrusted poodle." Nana chuckled, a dry sound. "They knew you, honey. Knew you were special. They wanted you to learn about life, the real life, not some fake world built on money. Trust me, when you turn 25, you'll be ready." Ready for what? I didn't know. But Nana's unwavering faith and the memory of my parents' warm smiles kept me going. I learned to cook on Nana's ancient stove, devoured books at the local library, and even landed a part-time job at the bookstore downtown. Sure, it wasn't the life I was born into, but it was mine. And for the first time in a long while, a flicker of hope ignited within me. Living with my grandmother in a small house, going to a regular school, working a part-time job, it wasn't what I was used to, but keeping my past a secret was a secret weapon I planned to use wisely. College loomed ahead, and with my good grades and some government grants, I was ready to face it head-on. College life was a whirlwind. I juggled classes, a part-time job at the campus bookstore, and a mountain of instant ramen noodles. Still, I wouldn't trade it for anything. One crisp autumn afternoon, I was hunched over a particularly mind-numbing economics textbook in the library, highlighter in hand, when a voice startled me. "Dude, are you lost in econ land again?" I looked up to see a tall, goofy-looking guy with a mop of brown hair and a mischievous grin. Maybe," I stammered, feeling a blush creep up my cheeks. "I'm Isabella." "Michael," he said, extending a hand. "Looks like you could use a study break. Coffee?" We ended up at a noisy campus cafe, drowning our textbooks in steaming lattes. Michael turned out to be a computer science major with a knack for making even the most complex algorithms seem fun. We spent hours talking about classes, dreams, and the best places to score cheap pizza on campus. "So, what brought you to this little corner of the world?" Michael asked, his eyes twinkling with curiosity. I hesitated. My past life felt like a different universe, a life I wasn't sure I should share. Finally, I took a deep breath. I moved in with my grandmother after my parents passed away. It felt strange saying it out loud, even after all this time. Michael's smile softened. "Wow, that's rough. I'm so sorry." "It's okay," I mumbled, looking down at my coffee cup. "It's been a while." There was a comfortable silence for a moment, then Michael added, "You seem different from most people here." "Different how?" I challenged, a spark of curiosity igniting. "You're not all about the fancy clothes and the expensive gadgets," he said. "You seem real." I couldn't help but smile. Maybe keeping my past a secret wasn't such a bad thing. It allowed people to see me for who I was, not what I had. As the weeks turned into months, Michael became my best friend, my confidant. We spent hours studying together, exploring the city, and arguing about everything from the best way to brew coffee to the merits of different science fiction movies. One evening, after a particularly frustrating day at the bookstore, I found myself venting to Nana over a plate of her legendary chocolate chip cookies. "Ugh, Nana," I groaned, throwing myself down on the worn armchair. "People can be such jerks." Nana chuckled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "Sounds like you had a rough day, sweetheart." I told her about the latte incident, about a particularly challenging calculus exam, and about my growing feelings for Michael. "He's funny, he's smart," I confessed, feeling my cheeks burn again. "But Nana, what happens when he finds out about my money?" Nana patted my hand gently. "Isabella," she said, her voice soft but firm, "a good man won't care about your money. He'll care about you, about the person you are. It just feels wrong keeping this big secret from him." Nana squeezed my hand. "There's time for that later, sweetheart. When you turn 25, you can decide what to do. Until then, focus on your studies, on your friends, and on living life to the fullest." Butterflies pirouetted in my stomach like a drunken ballet. Today was the big day, meeting Michael's parents for the first time. We were practically engaged. Pulling into Michael's childhood driveway, a wave of nervousness washed over me. Their house was a sprawling brick monstrosity, the kind with manicured lawns and a fountain that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. "Deep breaths, Isabella," I reminded myself. "You got this." The door swung open before I could even knock, revealing a woman with a perfectly coiffed blonde mane and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "This must be Michael's mom, Martha." "Isabella, so lovely to finally meet you," she chirped, her voice dripping with honeyed condescension. Come in, dear." Behind her stood a younger girl, all skinny jeans and a bored expression. Michael's sister, Lily, I presumed. She barely glanced at me before rolling her eyes and sauntering back inside. Great first impression. Martha ushered me into a living room that looked straight out of a magazine, plush couches, gleaming hardwood floors, and enough throw pillows to build a fort. "So, Isabella," Martha began, her gaze scanning me head to toe in a way that made me feel like a used car on display. "Tell me about yourself. Where do you hail from?" "Oh, you know," I stammered, feeling the heat creep up my neck. "Just a small town girl. Grew up with my grandmother in a little one-story house." Martha's smile faltered for a split second before morphing back into a tight, plastic grin. "A one-story house, huh? Interesting." I could practically hear the unspoken judgment hanging in the air. This wasn't exactly going the way I'd hoped. Then, before I could even respond, Lily sauntered back into the room. "Mom," she drawled, flipping through a glossy magazine. "Does she even have a real job?" The question hung in the air, dripping with disdain. I almost blurted out that my family lawyer could buy their entire house with pocket change, but Nana's voice echoed in my head. "A good man won't care about your money. He'll care about you." Taking a deep breath, I met Lily's gaze head-on. "Actually," I said, my voice surprisingly calm, "I work at a bookstore downtown. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills." Lily scoffed, but I didn't back down. I wasn't some spoiled rich girl, and I wouldn't let them treat me like one. "Speaking of bills," Martha chimed in, her voice suddenly serious. "Michael mentioned you two might be thinking about, well, let's just say I've had a prenuptial agreement drawn up." Now, a prenup wasn't exactly a surprise. Honestly, with her attitude, it was probably for the best. "No problem," I said, trying to sound nonchalant. "I think that's a smart idea. Actually, I'll have my lawyer take a look at it." Lily snorted. "Lawyer? You have a lawyer?" Again, I almost let it slip about the family retainer, but I bit my tongue. "Yeah," I lied smoothly. "A friend who's good with legalese." The rest of the afternoon was a blur of awkward silences, thinly veiled insults, and enough passive-aggressive comments to choke a horse. As soon as Michael mercifully appeared, I practically flew out the door with him. The next day, a thick envelope arrived in the mail addressed to me. Inside, a document with fancy lettering proclaimed it to be the prenuptial agreement Martha had mentioned. Skimming through it, it seemed straightforward enough, a division of assets acquired during the marriage, the usual boilerplate stuff. My heart hammered in my chest, during the marriage. This was exactly what worried me. I called my actual lawyer, the one Nana had recommended years ago, and explained the situation. He chuckled after hearing about the prenup. "They're barking up the wrong tree," he assured me. "This agreement only applies to assets acquired during the marriage. Your inheritance is separate and wouldn't be affected by this in the slightest." Relief washed over me. "So, what do I do?" "Simple," he said. "Sign the darn thing. It doesn't hurt you, and it might put their minds at ease. Besides, you know what they say, keep your enemies close." A slow smile spread across my face. Maybe this whole thing wasn't so bad after all. In fact, it might be a little fun to play along with their misconceptions for a while. The wedding wasn't a lavish affair at a swanky hotel, but it was perfect. We said our vows under a canopy of fairy lights in Nana's backyard, surrounded by close friends and family. It was simple, elegant, and filled with love. Everything I ever wanted. But as the saying goes, no wedding is complete without a little drama. And drama arrived in the form of Lily, Michael's heavily made up, heavily inebriated younger sister. A few glasses of champagne in, Lily decided it was showtime. In the middle of a toast, she slurred out accusations that would make a sailor blush. "She's after his money," she shrieked, pointing a shaky finger at me. "She doesn't know the first thing about manners, or class." My cheeks burned, but I held my tongue. Michael, however, did not. He marched over to her, his voice low and dangerous. "Lily, shut your mouth. Right now." Lily just scoffed and shoved him away. "Don't touch me. You're both fools. She's just a gold digger." That was it. I'd had enough. Ignoring Michael's pleading look, I whipped out my phone and dialed the police. "We have a situation here," I said calmly, explaining the scene. The party came to a screeching halt. Michael's mom turned a shade of purple, and guests exchanged stunned whispers. By the time the police arrived, Lily was sprawled on a lawn chair, muttering incoherent threats. The rest of the night was a blur. The police took Lily away, vowing to talk to her in the morning when she was sober. Michael apologized profusely, his face etched with shame. His mom, however, were a different story. Martha glared at me like I'd personally insulted the queen. "You've disgraced this family," she hissed, her voice tight with fury. "Now the press will have a field day with this." Honestly, I didn't care. Their family drama? Not my problem. In fact, the prospect of less Martha in my life was kind of appealing. 2 years flew by in a blur of designer shopping sprees, fancy dinners, and a growing emptiness in the pit of my stomach. The cracks in our relationship, once hairline fractures, had widened into gaping chasms. Michael, the charming, attentive man I fell in love with, seemed to have vanished. In his place stood a stranger, a workaholic with a bottomless pit for money and a vocabulary increasingly laced with his mother's venomous barbs. He'd stay late at the office, returning home well past midnight, reeking of expensive cologne and a vague dissatisfaction that hung heavy in the air. One evening, as he scoffed at my suggestion for a cozy night in, a familiar phrase slipped from his lips. "Honestly, Isabella," he drawled, "sometimes I wonder if you understand the beauty of big money." It was Martha's voice echoing through his, a cold, condescending sneer disguised as playful teasing. My blood ran cold. The urge to blurt out the truth, to reveal the hefty inheritance waiting for me on my 25th birthday, was a constant itch under my skin. But Nana's words always rang in my ears, "True love doesn't need money to survive." So I swallowed the truth, the bitter pill lodged in my throat. Desperate to salvage our crumbling marriage, I brought up the topic of children. Maybe it's time we started a family, I suggested tentatively, a hopeful smile plastered on my face. Michael's response was like a slap in the face. A kid? Seriously? He scoffed. Don't you think that's a bit convenient? Trying to trap me here with a baby? His words echoed in the silence, each syllable dripping with suspicion. He was repeating his mother's twisted narrative, turning my desire for a family into a manipulative ploy. However, after a couple of months I threw myself into planning Michael's birthday party with a fervor bordering on desperation. It was a desperate attempt to recapture the spark, to remind him of the happy couple we once were. I envisioned a lively gathering, filled with laughter and good company. Maybe, just maybe, it would reignite the flame that seemed to be flickering out. I sent out invitations, meticulously crafting a guest list that included all his friends, colleagues, and with a heavy heart, his mother and sister. In my heart of hearts, I hoped they'd decline. Their presence was guaranteed to inject a healthy dose of drama into the celebration, which was the last thing I needed. The day arrived, a perfect blend of sunshine and warmth. The house buzzed with activity as friends streamed in, bearing gifts and good cheer. Michael, dressed in a crisp new shirt, a birthday gift, naturally, beamed as he received congratulations and well wishes. A sliver of hope flickered within me. Maybe, just maybe, this could be a turning point. A discordant note, however, shattered the illusion. Just as Michael and I were about to cut the cake, the doorbell chimed. My stomach clenched. It was them. Martha, resplendent in a designer outfit that screamed "Look at me," and Lily, her younger sister, looking like a runaway from a bad reality TV show. Lily, clad in a dress that left little to the imagination, made a beeline for the champagne table. A wave of nausea washed over me. Lily, notorious for her inability to hold her liquor, was a disaster waiting to happen. I opened my mouth to warn Michael, but he was already engrossed in conversation with his mother, oblivious to the approaching storm. As predicted, the champagne flowed freely, and with it, Lily's inhibitions. Soon, she was weaving through the party, a tipsy hurricane in a sequined dress. Her voice grew louder with each passing glass, her words laced with a malicious intent. "You'll never be one of us," she slurred, pointing a drunken finger at me. "You're just a gold digger, after Michael's money and his family name." Tears welled up in my eyes, blurring the scene before me. But Michael, oblivious to my distress, remained glued to his mother's side, his back turned on me. He didn't even spare me a glance as Lily launched into a tirade about my supposed inadequacies as a wife and future mother. "You'll never carry on the family lineage," she screeched, waving a sheaf of papers in the air. "You'll only give birth to weak, pathetic babies." My vision swam. Shame and anger warred within me. Then, amidst the drunken chaos, Lily stumbled, her high heels betraying her. With a graceless shriek, she tumbled into the pool, landing in a heap of soaked sequins and misplaced pride. I rushed forward to help, more out of instinct than anything else. That's when I saw it. The papers Lily had been clutching lay on the ground, partially obscured by the pool water. Curiosity overcoming my emotional turmoil, I picked them up. My blood ran cold as I recognized the document, divorce papers. Signed by Michael. The date scrawled at the bottom confirmed my worst fears. Tears stinging my eyes, I stormed back into the house, the party atmosphere a grotesque parody of happiness. There, in the middle of the living room, stood Martha, a smug smile plastered on her face. Before I could speak, she launched into a tirade. "Well, Isabella," she purred, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Looks like your little plan backfired, didn't it?" "What plan?" I spat, my voice tight with anger. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb, dear," she sneered. "Trying to get pregnant, trap Michael, a classic gold digger move." Betrayal, raw and searing, ripped through me. I glanced at Michael, searching for a flicker of denial, a shred of the man I thought I knew. But his gaze remained fixed on the floor. Fury replaced the pain. "Fine," I choked out, snatching the divorce papers from his hand. If that's what you want. With a trembling hand, I grabbed a pen from the table and signed the document with a flourish. A gasp rippled through the crowd, but I ignored it. Let them watch. Let them see the sham of a marriage I'd been living in. There, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Happy now? The room was silent, the air thick with tension. Then, I reached for my phone and dialed a familiar number. Nana? I asked, my voice thick with emotion. Can you come get me? Now. A few minutes later, my grandmother, bless her heart, materialized in the doorway. Relief washed over me, warm and familiar. What's going on here, Izzy? Nana asked, her eyes taking in the scene with a sharp glint. Taking a deep breath, I launched into the whole sordid story, Michael's accusations, Martha's manipulations, the betrayal that felt like a physical blow. By the time I finished, a slow smile was spreading across Nana's face. That's all, she chuckled, her voice laced with amusement. Before I could reply, she turned to Michael and his mother, her voice laced with steel. Listen up, you two, she began. Isabella doesn't need your money or your pathetic family name. She's an heiress in her own right, set to inherit a vast fortune on her 25th birthday, which is, by the way, in a month. The color drained from Martha's face. Her smug smile had morphed into a mask of disbelief. Heiress, she stammered. But Michael said. Michael listens to his mommy a little too much, wouldn't you say? Nana retorted, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Martha sputtered, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. Isabella, she croaked, her voice laced with desperation. Forgive me. I was wrong. You deserve my son. Now it was my turn to scoff. Deserve? Their love had been built on lies and suspicion. The taste of betrayal lingered bitter on my tongue. As if on cue, a loud honking sound came from the driveway. My surprise gift, a top-of-the-line sports car, had arrived. A car I'd secretly bought for Michael, using money from my hidden account. Sliding behind the wheel, I gestured for Nana to join me. Let's go, Nana, I said, my voice firm. From now on, my lawyer will be dealing with all of you. As I pulled out of the driveway, I glanced back at Michael and his mother, their faces a picture of stunned silence. Leaning out the window, I added one last parting shot. Oh, and by the way, I said, a mischievous glint in my eyes. I recorded the whole thing, including your little drunken performance, Lily. I held up my phone, showing them the social media post with a rapidly rising number of. The roar of the engine filled the air as I peeled out of the driveway, leaving behind a cloud of dust and a family drama for the ages. A week after the dust settled from the divorce drama, the phone rang. It was Martha. Honey dripping from her voice, she launched into a desperate plea for reconciliation. Apparently, Michael was lost without me, and they both wanted me back in their perfect little family. I cut her short. Thanks for the offer, Martha, I said, my voice cool. But the damage is done. Move on. Then came Michael. He showed up at my doorstep, looking like a kicked puppy in a Brioni suit. A sob story about his manipulative mother and his undying love for me tumbled out of his mouth. Yeah, right. Spare me the crocodile tears, Michael, I said, my voice laced with steel. Actions speak louder than words. You had your chance. He hung his head, defeated. There weren't any grand gestures, no groveling or apologies worth a damn. Just another attempt at manipulating me back into his life. Goodbye, Michael, I said, shutting the door firmly. Nana and I remained in our cozy little house on Maple Street. Forget mansions, this place held memories, laughter, and the comforting aroma of Nana's famous apple pie. My 25th birthday arrived, ushering in a tidal wave of wealth. The inheritance was staggering, more money than I could ever dream of spending. But luxury cars and designer clothes held no appeal. Instead, I channeled that wealth into something meaningful. The Isabella Foundation, dedicated to my beloved parents, was born. This foundation offered a lifeline to people struggling financially, a way up from the quicksand of debt and hardship. It was my way of giving back, of making a difference in the world. Running the foundation kept me busy, but it was the most rewarding work I'd ever done. Reading success stories, witnessing the hope blossom in people's eyes, that's what fueled me. The sting of betrayal had faded, replaced by a quiet satisfaction.